you don't deserve reparations for slavery because you never suffered slavery.
With points. One, you should be in favor of reparations, and I'll tell you why. But first, I totally understand why you're not in favor of reparations. You're a poor white man who has failed to achieve any meaningful financial success despite living in a country that was quite literally built for you. So of course you don't believe in white privilege because you've failed to capitalize on yours. But there's this great quote, rising tides lift all boats. So if you stand side by side and help the descendants of slaves receive reparations, they will stand by you in your fight for pay equity, unionization, and political representation. And you should want black people on your side because they have more social and cultural capital than any other marginalized group in this country, than any other group, period. In addition to all of that, there's already a precedent for reparations in this country. The former owners of slaves received reparations from the government for their lost property. So when you say don't deserve, it just leads me to believe that you don't know your history.
All right, people, we are here for reparations, compensation for slavery and colonization. Now, what do you think? What side are you? Are you on the side that said they should pay and pay in full for slavery and colonization? Or are you on the part that is saying no, just let it go, forget about it? Because there are a lot of Africans. I'm going to play a clip right now which you see the anger in this young man. There are a lot of Africans that thinks that reparation it's not okay. Africans ain't going for free money. They should go get work to do. They shouldn't just sit down and wait for reparation. The black people that claim that were descendants of slaves, a slave trade, or those who were taken as slaves should go and look for a job to do. They shouldn't just sit and keep hoping for some money that is coming in the name of reparation or compensation. When you talk about slavery, emotions are risen, sweetheart. This is not a joke. This is not a joke because a lot of things happened to our ancestors that when you think back, maybe I should take you back to something.
All right, so these chains that I'm picking up, these are 400 years old from Ghana. Hand restraints, neck restraints. So that's 35 pounds. Oh man. That's just crazy. And I'm holding these for the second time, and my heart is still beating out of my chest. It's like it's I don't know. There's a connection that when you pick them up, it's you feel every bit of the anxiety that your ancestor felt when they were put on him or her. And they didn't know what these chains were, where they were going, why they were being put on. It's gunshot straight from the hip.
And that is it. You know, it's so emotional when you think back that a human being had to be in that condition, deprived of everything. There is no hope. They were deprived of their hope. There was nothing they had on them. They were just waiting to see what life holds for them. So if you think that black people or Africans are just there sitting and waiting for reparation, they should just get over it already. I don't know if you're doing justice, because it wasn't you who was affected. You might not have ancestors who were slavers, But there are people that have. There are people that still have their stories. They know that their great-grandparents were slaves. Please, let's just do them this justice. They should be paid. If there is a law that states that they should be paid for it, then why not? They should be paid for it. At least, wherever their ancestors are, they will be at peace knowing that something is done that is called justice. Even if just a little bit of it. Right? Because I was disappointed to have Africans who sit and say things like this one.
This one's gonna get rough, okay? I am here to rebuke the black people who live in 2023, in the 21st century, and talk about slavery constantly, as if it happened to you. As if you were on some slave ship somewhere. As if you were on some plantation somewhere.
Well, the ancestors did.
You who has never lived 40 years.
The ancestors have.
You who doesn't even remember what life before the internet looked like.
The ancestors.
You who lives in the softest, most comfortable age in the history of the human race. You who lives in rich countries with rights and opportunities that most human beings on this earth cannot even fathom. And you spend your life crying daily about slavery as something that had nothing to do with you. Some of you even want free money, right? Somebody should come and give you free money because some person who had nothing to do with you was enslaved in Cuba 400 years ago. Shut up and sit down. I hear this crap all the time. And listen, if any one of you wants to come and deal with me on this one, bring it. I want all the smoke with you. You know who you are, right? You, yeah, slave. Bring it. Shut up and sit down.
It's always the loud ones. The descendants of enslaved people want free money, you say? During slavery, slave masters amassed mad amounts of wealth using free labor from the enslaved. Then slavery was abolished and the slave masters were richly compensated for losing their slaves. It's 2023 and the descendants of slave masters are still benefiting from slavery. They get to inherit all of that blood money, all of that money that they never worked for. But how dare the descendants of the enslaved ask for reparations for the job that their ancestors did? The Jews got reparation. I've not seen anybody talking about how they got free money. Point number 2. So because we have the internet and light bulb, black people cannot talk about the systemic issues that are holding them down, systemic issues that were put in place immediately after slavery. As an African who has taken her time to learn about African American history, videos like this really piss me off. Oh, these people should pick themselves up by the bootstrap. They did that already, several times, in several places. Vanport, Oregon, Oscarville, Georgia, etc. They freaking had black wall streets. White people could not stand their success. So you know what happened to those cities? They were burnt down, flooded. They are presently under lakes. Same way yesterday, I saw a video of a white South African talking about how he inherited stake in a mine in South Africa, $300 million. They get to keep the profit of the blood, sweat, and tears of our ancestors. But when we talk about the effect of colonization and slavery and how they never really ended, oh, it happened a long time ago, shut the fuck up. I think there is a corn factory that produces this type. We got to locate them and burn that shit down.
You see the emotions all over. Everybody has something to say. But what got me hard from what this African brother said was free money. Free money, you say? When even up until now, we are still being monetized. Up until now, things that were stolen at the process of that slave trading are still being monetized in their museums. Up until now, the effect of this slavery is still seen in our present day society, and they say we are living in a soft world where there's technology and everything that we wish to have or hope to have. Most of the times I don't know how we understand life. I don't know how we see things. Anyway, we are all entitled to our opinion. But I would want us to listen carefully to what this man has to say. And it breaks my heart as well. But he says the truth because the effect of slavery is still in us, in our midst. People fall sick, things happen. All these are effects of slavery. When you do not know, you should try to know.
Jamaica was the Caribbean's largest slave market. The British imported into Jamaica 1.3 million Africans. At the end of slavery in 1838, there were 300,000 remaining. The question has to be asked then, how do you reduce 1.3 million people to 300,000 after 200 years? Less than 25% survival. Slavery in Jamaica was genocidal. When the British Prime Minister, Mr. Cameron, visited Jamaica, he did not wish to speak of the colonial past. Britain had taken Jamaica from the Spanish in 1655 and had ruled Jamaica until 1962, when Jamaica forcefully demanded its independence. We have 60% of the black people in the Caribbean over the age of 60 have hypertension or diabetes, or both. Now, if you take the single criterion of chronic diseases, hypertension, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, if you take that simple criterion, the black people in the Caribbean are the unhealthiest people on the planet. And you have to understand that. On the one hand, we are watching Usain Bolt and we're watching the Caribbean athletes. We're watching the Caribbean with an image of being the most athletic people on the planet. But beneath that image of these super sportsmen and women is the hard reality that we are now the sickest people on the planet. In every black family in the Caribbean, hypertension and diabetes is endemic and congenital. In my family, almost everybody over 60 has hypertension and diabetes. And it's the same for your families, for all of our families. There is an explosion of ill health in the Caribbean. And this is a legacy of slavery and colonization. You take a people, put them on an island for 300 years, give them salt fish and salt pork every day, overwork them, undermine them, sell their children, rape their wives, make them work 20 hours a day, overwork, malnourish, and take them through that stress profile of physical and mental terror. What you get? Hypertension and diabetes. It was the same then as it is now. When your doctor tells you to learn to relax, take out your salt. Well, you can take out the salt, but your foreparents couldn't take it because that's all they had, salt. And now the result is that black people in the Caribbean cannot metabolize salt and sugar. Because for 300 years, that is what we were fed on plantations, plus the stress. So we cannot metabolize salt and sugar, and now we all have a salt and sugar problem, hypertension, diabetes. And we are spending millions of dollars to deal with this. Millions of dollars we are spending to fight hypertension, diabetes in the Caribbean. That is going to be the #1 economic crisis in this region next 20 years, unless we find an answer to it.
And if there is an opportunity to do something little as reparation, something little as compensation, just in respect of these people, why do you think it's so much that we shouldn't accept? Leave your comment and thought there at the section, and I'll see you in my next one. Until then, love yourself, love others, stay safe, stay positive. Bye for now.